The yeas are 56, the nays are 44.
A clear decision in a divided chamber. Donald Trump will face a second impeachment trial.
The Senate shall proceed with the trial.
The Senate vote affirmed that the trial was constitutional.
We will stop the steal.
To make their case, the Democratic prosecutors showed a video as evidence of Trump firing up his supporters ahead of the storming of the Capitol on January 6th.
And you can't vote on fraud. And fraud breaks up everything, doesn't it? When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules.
You ask what a high crime and misdemeanor is under our Constitution? That's a high crime and misdemeanor.
Ahead of the vote, Republicans had argued that Trump could not be convicted once out of office. This was dismissed by the prosecution.
Their argument is that if you commit an impeachable offense in your last few weeks in office, you do it with constitutional impunity. You get away with it.
Impeach 45!
So we're calling
Trump's
upon the
lawyers
House
also resorted to video, arguing that the trial was politically motivated and divisive.
On the impeachment, Donald Trump, would you vote yes or no?
I would vote yes. I would vote too.
With this trial, you will open up new and bigger wounds across the nation. For a great many Americans see this process for exactly what it is: a chance by a group of partisan politicians seeking to eliminate Donald Trump from the American political scene.
In a Congress still reeling from last month's events, it is partisan politics that makes it very unlikely the prosecution will get the two-thirds majority required in the Senate to convict Trump.
Well, what does it all mean? So let's bring in DW's U.S. analyst William Glucroft. William, how did this first session of Trump's second impeachment trial go?
Well, we got a good preview of what the trial itself is going to be. Both sides arguing whether the trial itself is even constitutional to hold in the Senate. So arguing rather technical grounds. We saw 4 hours of arguments in total from both sides. The House managers, they act as the prosecution. These are Democrats from the House who are leading the prosecution case, and the lawyers from Donald Trump's side. Now, the Trump defense is that it's unconstitutional, as we heard in the report, because Donald Trump is not in office anymore, that it's politically motivated. But of course, Democrats made both a constitutional case, and there's also historical precedent for exactly this situation that we're seeing, trying a former government official once they're already out of office. They made that technical constitutional legal case, but also a very emotional case, showing video from that day of January 6th, trying to stoke in the minds of the senators, especially Republican senators who are much more skeptical and much more on the side of Donald Trump, to remind them of that anger and fear from that day. Jamie Raskin, a Democrat from Maryland who's leading this prosecution, whose son died just a week before those events on January 6th. He had a very emotional statement to make, and I think we can have a listen to it here.
I told her how sorry I was, and I promised her that it would not be like this again the next time she came back to the Capitol with me. And you know what she said? She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol again." Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest.
Well, how much of an impact did this speech and the video, indeed, that Raskin showed have on the lawmakers?
Well, it was a very emotional moment. There's no denying that. We just heard Jamie Raskin referring to his daughter, who was with him on the day of the attack. Again, the family being together, still mourning the loss of their son, of her brother, just a week before those attacks. And then on that very day, the attack happening. The Trump defense team is being very careful not to play down the events of January 6th. In fact, admitting and acknowledging that it was a horrible day for everyone. They're questioning who's to blame for this, that yes, it was a terrible event and people need to be held accountable, but Donald Trump is not the one responsible. And as we saw by the vote just yesterday on whether this trial is even constitutional, with just 6 Republicans breaking ranks and siding with Democrats saying that it was, gives us a good preview of what the outcome of the trial overall is probably going to be.
Talking about previous, are votes likely to fall along party lines in the end, which makes impeachment unlikely?
Yeah, or you're exactly. Conviction. They need 17. Democrats need 17 Republican senators to join them to make that 67 out of 100 senator mark to convict a president, and that is just unlikely going to happen. You might have some Republicans, as we saw in the vote yesterday on constitutionality, crossing lines, but generally Republicans are very much still in Trump's camp. And what was very interesting about yesterday's vote, because it was about constitutionality, whether this trial is constitutional, with so many Republicans, all but 6, saying that it wasn't constitutional and Democrats saying that it was, that can only mean one of 2 things. Either there's 2 very divergent opinions in America right now about what the Constitution even is and what America's constitutional democracy is, or it says that Republicans are putting party above the country. And I think that vote yesterday is quite an interesting reflection on the state of American politics today.
William Glucroft, thank you very much.